Take 4.
How difficult do you think it is for someone to not get influenced by the negativity, the negative influence, the negative people in a place like this?
It's pretty impossible for them not to be influenced because they don't really have a choice but to be around those people. They can't separate themselves, especially if, like in a regular unit, they have 4 people in those rooms. If their roommate's a negative, they got to deal with them all the time. So sometimes I think that that's maybe the reason why Gingerich is separated, because then he's not really as around the negativity as much, and because he's been doing so good, they don't want him to go and be corrupted by another person, I guess. But I see them, I get to see them for the first 2 weeks here, and they could be so well behaved, and I'll think that they'll do really great when they get to the regular unit. And then 2 weeks later, I heard that they've gotten into a fight, and they've just went completely downhill because they can't avoid the negativity, especially if they go to like a regular GP unit. It's gonna happen. So.
And how do they, they're all going through puberty and stuff, and like, do you sort of, you must see them change so much, and voices break and stuff. And has Paul's voice broken actually?
Maybe a little bit, but no, I don't think it's as deep as some of the other boys around here. And then like I said, I only see them for 2 weeks, and then they go somewhere else. But then if I see them, I see them for these 2 weeks, and then I happen to be outside, and I see somebody else 6 months later, I could see, they grew, or their hair's longer, or they've developed acne, or whatever it is. You could tell that they've grown, and some of them have vastly matured from how they used to be, especially because some of them come here when they're 12. So those are the ones that we see the biggest change in because they have the most room to grow.
So what physical changes have you seen in Paul?
This is going to sound funny, but he's grown armpit hair. That's like the only physical change I've noticed.
It's quite sweet, isn't it? I think he's got a little bit of I think I noticed a bit of a sort of fluff coming out.
Fluff. I'm sure that before he leaves here, we'll see all that stuff because he's, in his prime teenage years now, so.
You don't seem very scary. Like, I wonder, how do you get respect from them how do you assert your authority with them?
Oh, it's about developing rapport with them. Conversating with them, talking to them, getting to know them. Eventually, when they respect you, they'll listen to you. I know I don't seem very intimidating. That's what most people think, but nobody gets anything past me. I'm really assertive. My demeanor doesn't look like that, I guess.
It's just interesting because I guess people might have a perception of like what a CO might be like or something. And
a big burly male. That's not me. Yeah.
And so, what do you see your job as? As part of the system?
Like, how do I think it is important? Well, I'm there to make sure that nothing happens to these kids, and I'm to protect them and keep them safe and to watch over them, which I think I do a good job at. So everybody's job here is important. We all do the same thing, and sometimes it's trying, sometimes it's hard, and sometimes we hate it, but at the end of the day, it's sort of rewarding because you know that at least one of these kids you're going to make a difference in. So if I only help one kid, then I'm okay with that.
There must be some who you just know they're going to be back here.
Oh, some of them you could tell they come in just acting foolish, and for those 2 weeks they just drive me nuts because they're the ones who don't want to comply, and they're just absolute troublemakers. Then 2 weeks they go to a different unit, and then I don't feel too optimistic about them. And I know in 6 months they'll be right back to where they started from. They'll come back. So, and then there's some of them that I think are going to do really great, and then they come back. So you never know because they could be very misleading too. So.
And does Gingerich? Do you have to call him Gingerich, or do you?
I call him Gingerich. Yeah.
Why?
We call everybody by their last name here. So all the students are whatever their last name is.
Can we just pick up on that because I interrupted you? Would you just say that again? Sorry, I call him Gingerich, so we call everybody.
Oh, I call him Gingerich because we call everybody by their last names here. It's just how the system wants things. Probably because we have a lot of kids that have the same first name, so it's easier to go by last name, so you know who you're talking to.
It's just funny because it's sort of like on his sneakers we got a really like a nice shot of his. The sneakers have their names written on them, don't they?
Yeah. And some people have a nickname for him. They might call him Ginger or some sort of variation of Gingerich, like shortened Gingerich. But when I met his dad called him Paul Henry. And at first I didn't know who he was talking about because I don't know him by Paul Henry. I didn't even know his middle name was Henry. And I'm like, who are you talking about? He's like, oh, Gingerich. I said, oh, okay, now I know who you're talking about. So.
And what's it say on his little wristband that he's got?
What?
You know they have those wristbands.
What does it say? It says like his name and then his DOC number. There's a picture of him, what risk level he is, and then if he has any like medical conditions.
Can you remember what risk level he is?
No.
I think because we got a shot of it that was really, it's like a little picture of him. It says, I think it's very high risk, doesn't it? Do you remember, Will, when we got that?
Yeah, it was a high risk.
I think it said high risk on it, which we thought was quite. Is that to do with his crime?
I think it is, but if that was based on behavior, that doesn't, like I said, that doesn't match him. And so.
Right.
He's a good kid.
Mm-hmm. And could you just explain a day in his life, just like what happens? You know, he gets woken up at this time. And
On a weekday, I'll come in at 6 o'clock in the morning, and then they are all woken up at 5:30, but they normally don't get out of bed. So I go and I wake them all up again. We get lined up. We go to dining hall. So we're first to dining hall normally. And then we get back around 7:30 or so, and he'll normally go back to bed we get back at 6:30. He'll go back to bed until about 7:45, and then he has to wake up and go to school. Then he'll go to school until around 11, and he'll come back, and he stays out of his room during that time, and he'll watch TV or make a phone call. Or if there's younger kids, he might come out with them and play a game of cards with them, Uno or Sorry or whatever game it is. And then around 12:30, he'll go back to school until 3. And at 3, he'll come back and he'll sit on the day room and watch a little more TV. And then from 3:30 to 4, we go to rec. And then from 4:30 till about 5:30, he'll sit out and watch TV some more. And then about 5:30, we'll go to dining hall. And then after dinner, he'll lock down for the rest of the night.
And when we were carrying our cameras through, we heard people being like, "Are you making this about Gingerich? Are you making this about?" Do you think he gets resentment from some people about getting this attention?
Some people they don't understand, so they always think that Gingerich is treated differently, or they don't understand like why Gingerich gets to be out of his room all day. These kinds of he's just different, but he's not really treated differently because he's treated like as if he was in a regular unit. And I think that they probably don't understand the media attention about what's so intriguing about his story, because all they know is he's in here for murder. They don't know, the circumstances of the story and how young he was when it happened. So I just think that they stereotype and they're quick to judge. And they don't know.
Right. Yeah. Is that